refrigerator just went off. Hello Internet, I'm Mary, codename Reeb, and I am still making up for not vlogging every day in April. Well, we're off to a good start. You may have noticed that earlier I posted a throwback Thursday video on a day that is not, in fact, Thursday. Yes, that's right. After promising no excuses, I finished a video, I edited it, and while it was rendering, I went and watched the end of season 2 of Hannibal with my roommate and promptly forgot to upload the video. I'm sorry. But we are powering through. Okay, it is Follow Friday and I have 4 fun things for you to follow. 1 tabletop, 2 darts and droids, 3 Nimona, and 4 balanced shelf. Let's go through them one by one. So number 1, tabletop. It is a fun web series right here on YouTube, run by Geek and Sundry and hosted by Will Wheaton. Yes, that Will Wheaton. Actual Star Trek famous Will Wheaton. Every episode will invite 3 other people, usually internet famous in some capacity, whether that be through creating games or a web series or memes or whatever, and he plays tabletop board games with them. The interaction between players is really fun, the actual gameplay is really fun to witness, especially because we have interviews with the players behind the scenes, so like they talk about their strategy and what they think each other's strategies are and just make witty, snarky comments. I got too close to the light there. And you get introduced to a lot of amazing tabletop games. So you can take what you learned from tabletop into the real world and play real games with your friends and family and have a blast in real life. I know that my interest in tabletop gaming has definitely increased a lot since watching tabletop, and yeah, it's just they seem to have a ton of fun while they play and it's fun to watch. Speaking of tabletop games, next on my list is Darts and Droids. Darts and Droids is a webcomic retelling of the Star Wars movies as a series of tabletop RPG campaigns. All the characters in the films become either player characters or NPCs. And so we get a version of Star Wars as told through the game master and the players. Not only does this make for some really hilarious meta storytelling, as well as a lot of cool twists and subversions of the actual canon of the films, but we also get a sort of B story about the players behind the characters. They also pull off the remarkable by making Jar Jar a likable character by having him be played by one of the other players' much younger sister. And R2-D2 is played by a min-maxer. Oh my god, it is glorious. I haven't read it in a really long time, but I checked today and it seems as though the place they left off was the end of Empire Strikes Back. Basically, if you love Star Wars, you should check this out. If you love tabletop RPGs, you should check this out. If you love both, you have to check this out. Also, the Game Master in the comic is a really good example of how to be a good Game Master who accommodates the player needs, and so if you are ever going to be or want to be a game master or a dungeon master or a storyteller or whatever, you should also just read this for research purposes. Speaking of webcomics, that brings me to number 3 on my list, and that is Nimona. Nimona is a webcomic written by Noelle Stevenson that is about a shapeshifter who apprentices herself to a supervillain. It takes place in a world that is sort of a hybrid of modern technology and science and medieval fantasy. It's very cool. The characters are great, the art is beautiful and stylized, and the art design for the world is beautiful and stylized. Like I said, that hybrid is not just a world-building hybrid, it doesn't appear just in the world building, but also in the stylistic and the character design and all that, and it's very, yeah, it's just great. The story is fun and at both turns funny and heartwarming and heartbreaking, and yeah, it's great fun, it's great story, really great characters. Nimona is a delight. The man she apprentices herself to is very interesting, complicated reasons for being a supervillain. Her reasons for wanting to be apprenticed to a supervillain are very interesting. They have one of those strained relationships where he doesn't really want to apprentice her at first, and then you get to watch that grow and their affection grow, but then their past complicates things, and it's great, it's great. There's also a really great relationship between the main hero of this universe and the supervillain that Nimona has apprenticed herself to, and they have a very interesting backstory together, and it's just really great. Though the series is finished, it is no longer available in its entirety online because it was published in the real world outside the internet. So it will be available from HarperCollins in May of this year. In the meantime, the first 3 chapters are still available on the web. I will have links for this and all of the things I talk about in the description. So if you want to check out those 3 chapters and get a sample before you pre-order Nimona online, then you can do that. But I do promise you it is very good, and I will definitely be ordering a copy to own for my very own. Speaking of fantasy and sci-fi written by ladies, that brings me to the 4th and final thing on my list, and that is Balanced Shelf. Balanced Shelf is a brand new blog just started by my beloved and brilliant older sister Jennifer, on which she reviews sci-fi, fantasy, speculative fiction, genre books written by women. The idea for this blog basically started when Jen realized that she had mostly only read genre fiction by men and not very much, if any, by women. So she wanted to remedy this, so she sought out women authors, and that just kind of sort of developed into her wanting to make a blog in which she reviewed and shared these books that she found with other people. She reviews the books by giving a brief summary of what they're about and kind of giving you an idea of the tone of the book and also giving her honest opinion about them, but she also tries to refrain from giving out any spoilers that aren't absolutely necessary. So yeah, it's pretty safe to read if you want to check out these books later and you're worried about them being spoiled by the review. These are good reviews that are meant for people who haven't necessarily read these books yet, or if you have read the books, it's interesting to hear her opinion on them, and then you can have a discussion in the comments. Comments are definitely encouraged so long as you're being civil. Rather than a star and number rating, Jen ends each review with if you like blank, then you might want to pick up this book, or if you dislike blank, you might want to pass on this book, so that you can make a decision about whether or not you would like to check out this book if you haven't, based on your own subjective likes and dislikes. She started this blog at a pretty breakneck pace. There's already a lot of posts out, so you should go check it out. So yeah, that's it for today. Hopefully I don't forget to actually upload it. Sorry again. Next up is Singing Saturday, so I'll see you tomorrow.